I honestly really like Sword and Shield, but granted, I should say I really like Gen 8 in general. And I think this little guy is one of those reasons. For those of you listening, I have a little plushie of Score Bunny that I got from pre-ordering the game. And David has
Grook. I got a Grook.
the Grook
The
man. Yeah, your plush is
Grookmeister.
significantly bigger.
He's got a drumstick in his head.
Yeah, dude, it is. I think like Decidueye and Rowlet are your boys, but I think Grookey was literally made for you.
Yeah, basically.
Who knew that that Grookey would evolve into a literal rock drummer.
Who, whenever he Dynamaxes, turns into fucking Neil Peart.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. But I remember. So we're talking Generation 8 of Pokemon, which is going to be interesting because this generation had a lot to it. It was a very busy couple of years with the release of Sword and Shield first in November of 2019.
Yeah.
And then, he does not want to... He does not want to stay on my hat. Yeah, this is obnoxious.
Goodness.
Yeah, gotta pose for the thumbnail. But yeah, so we had the release of Sword and Shield in 2019. We had, let me do the timeline really quickly. We had Pokemon Home, which doesn't really count. Pokemon Rescue Team DX, which was the deluxe version of the original Red and Blue. We had Isle of Armor DLC, the Crown Tundra DLC for Sword and Shield, new Pokemon Snap, which neither of us really played, but it's fine. Pokemon Unite, which I played too much of. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and then Pokemon Legends Arceus released within a year of each other. No, just about a year of each other. And that's it. So starting right away with the mainstays of the series, we got Sword and Shield. And I remember Sword and Shield being good games was so important because these were the first mainline games to be released on the Nintendo Switch. And leading up to the release of the games, there was a lot of controversy. No!
Bye-bye.
There was a lot of controversy because, the files had leaked and people were finding that Game Freak was reusing assets from Sun and Moon, which was not very cool for a lot of people. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're doing their best with what they got. Who knows how tight that, the release schedule could be and blah, blah, blah. And I was just defending them. And, then the games came out. And, you know what? I enjoyed him. I enjoyed them for what they... No! Stop!
Give it up,
calling.
Nick. Give it up. Ain't gonna happen.
All right, well, then you talk about the games.
Look, man. I think they were kind of whatever.
Yeah.
Besides my main man right here. Honestly, I don't really have any intentions of going... I mean, I did beat it twice. I mean, I beat both Sword and Shield, so, I've done it twice already. And usually, second time through, as we've seen in the past, it goes a lot higher. But, no, it pretty much stayed the same.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of... I don't want to say lame, but not very exciting. because like the legendaries were whatever. The hop was stupid. The team Rose or whatever was super predictable. It's just like, I don't know, man.
Oh, like the chairman being the bad guy?
Yeah, like of course he would be the bad guy. And then it wasn't until I think the DLCs where it actually kind of got pretty cool.
Yeah.
But base Sword and Shield, yeah, pretty weak.
Yeah, I remember enjoying it for what it was. First, we got Galarian variants of certain Pokemon. Galarian, Rapidash, and Ponyta are great additions. We got Galarian Meowth and Berserker, which I think are okay.
Or terrible.
Yeah. I feel like the music was pretty good and the character designs were fun. Marnie is one of my favorite rivals just because I like that she has her own fan club, even though she's like really quiet and like, I don't know. I will say I do kind of have a bone to pick with Game Freak, not for the bad looking trees, not for Dynamaxing being kind of a niche gimmick. But I have a bone to pick with the amount of fucking psychic and fairy types they threw into Galar. Because here's the thing. Bede, I think it's Bede. Your rival goes on a journey where he uses predominantly psychic type Pokemon to essentially being recruited as the new fairy type gym leader of the region, which means that most of his team have to be hybrid fairy psychic types. So you got Galarian, Rapidash, and Ponyta. You got Hatterene. Hatterini. I don't know how to pronounce its name. You got Gardevoir. And both of the legendaries are fairy types. So it's like you got a lot of fairy types. Or no, they're both steel types. Sorry. Yours was a fairy type. Steel fairy. And then mine was steel fighting. So anyway, I don't know. I like the Pokédex for the most part. I love the gym battle music. The gym, the house music is really good. The actual raids were fine, but yeah, the DLC they were cool. I think story wise, I didn't give a shit. I liked that they basically let you raise and evolve one of the legendaries like in the DLC, and you basically in the what's it, the dojo.
Yeah, Mustard's Dojo.
Yeah, you go through it with only Kubfu, and you basically go through a training arc where then it evolves into Urshifu at the very end. I liked the Galarian birds in the Crown Tundra DLC. I thought that was really fucking cool. Yeah, and I liked in the story bit in the Crown Tundra where the dad that you end up interacting with, he gets like mind controlled by
they were funny games. I'll give them that.
Yeah,
Bar none,
they had
the
a lot of humor
funniest
to them.
Game.
And you know what? I'm gonna say it. I think I really like Leon as a champion. I think he's a fun character. And the fact that his signature Pokemon isn't a Galarian Pokemon is interesting. The fact that it's a Charizard is kind of whack, because like Charizard already gets enough love as it is. But anyway, I definitely don't think they're my favorite main series games. They're not even my favorite main series games on the Switch. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Either way, the next games that we have to talk about, surprisingly, is Mystery Dungeon.
Which I went ham on for a while.
Yeah, me too.
But then, same thing happens with the originals where it's like, once you beat the story and like you start evolving, that's when it gets kind of boring.
Yeah. Well, because you go around recruiting all of the legendaries.
Yeah, but that was always a nightmare, even back in the day.
Oh,
Where it's
especially back in the day when you
yes,
had to like recruit Kyogre, you had to go through his dungeon like 75 floors every time, and there wasn't even a guarantee that you would recruit it at the end when you beat him. So it's like that shit kind of sucks.
yeah.
But no, I remember there were a couple of weeks where I was just playing that game for most of the time. I liked getting to do the personality quiz again. The story was okay, but I think if they end up remaking Explorers of Space and Time, or Time and Darkness, sorry, those are gonna sell really well. I'm gonna enjoy those. But as for remaking the originals, I don't know. There was nostalgia to it for sure, like going back to the base. And isn't that the one where you evolve at the waterfall
Yes.
with Whiscash?
Yeah. This
Yeah.
is the one.
Yeah, but other than that, pretty unremarkable. Or not unremarkable, but it's just like, yeah, they were good. You know, nothing groundbreaking.
Along with the other remakes with Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah, dude, the Diamond and Pearl remakes, I will say those were probably a little bit more disappointing, just by a hair. Because first of all, it was top down again, which is fine. But instead of doing like the Link's Awakening thing, where they actually spent a lot of time making the world look cool and good and like a playset, you know, it's just like I don't know.
It was kind of like with the GameCube with that adapter where you can like plug your Game Boy game into it.
Yeah.
And it's on the TV. It's like the same shit. It's like plug in your DS games and then just play on the TV.
Yeah.
You know.
The changes that they made were cool. I think the underground is just as fun as it used to be. Maybe if it's not just as fun, then it's pretty much like just a little bit less fun, only because you don't have the stylus to, you know, break open the rock anymore when you're digging. You can have Pokemon follow behind you, which is cool, except their size, you know, their proportions aren't accurate. So like you could have a Torterra be the same size as you, which I know that's kind of what they did in the old games, but it just looks weird when they're 3D models and, you know, they look like they're supposed to be bigger. But whatever. Yeah, dude, I don't remember anything about... I remember Cynthia still being kind of hard to beat for me. I think it was just my team. But yeah, dude, Cynthia still holds up. Yeah, the meme where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to start a Gen 4 game and use a different team, but instead you're just using like Staraptor, your starter, Buizel. Bless you.
Oh, yeah, kurva.
Yeah, that still kind of remains true. I think I used a very similar team on my playthrough. I forget if I had a Leafeon or a Glaceon, but anyway. Yeah, again, nothing to write home about. I don't think I'm ever going to play those games again. But yeah. Speaking of games that I might not ever play again ever, I played Pokemon Unite really, really hard and really intensely for a very long time. It's basically League of Legends, but with Pokemon. And it's super fun. And they had Cinderace in the game. They still have Cinderace in the game, and they've added a bunch of my favorite Pokemon, like Scizor, and they got Decidueye in there now. They got a couple of Eevee evolutions. And it's pretty good. I haven't logged in and played in a very long time, but it was basically I was also playing Smite a lot, which is also kind of like, it's a MOBA, but it's from, you know, the back third person perspective, and you play as gods from different pantheons. And I was like, oh, so Pokemon Unite is just going to be Pokemon Smite, you know? And it was. The matches are super quick, and the strategy is fun for the most part. But if you solo queue, it's that much harder to win than if you're in a party with someone and you're like actively communicating with them. I don't know. So I stopped playing it eventually, and I think you might have played a round or two, right, David?
Yeah, it was not my thing. I don't like it.
Which is fair. MOBAs aren't for everyone. But now we get to the real meat and potatoes of this video, at least for me. Or not video, but, this section. Pokemon Legends, which I am hoping becomes a series in the future, and they just use different regions. But, dude, I remember the hype that I felt at the end of whatever that direct was for the Diamond and Pearl remakes, and they revealed this game. I pissed myself. So Pokemon Legends Arceus, I have converted, but I know some people still say Arceus because that's, the way that everyone grew up saying it.
Yeah.
Is to date one of the most experimental Pokemon games like ever. Like one that still remains or retains a similar formula, but it's set in like ancient times. You're in the Sinnoh region, which is called Hisui. And you are basically the person making the first Sinnoh Pokédex. Which it's its own, like the concept itself is fucking nuts. It's such a cool idea. And then you factor in the aspect of you have to craft all of your items by getting supplies and finding supplies, and the battle system is really different. It's like you don't like it's still turn based, but like I don't know, how would you describe it?
It's like it's just very quick,
Yeah.
Usually, one or two moves, it's over. Everyone gets XP. You just launch Pokeballs. You can just fucking whip them.
Yeah, dude, you can finally aim and throw a Pokeball and catch a Pokemon without having to battle it in this game.
Yeah.
It is I would say the emphasis in this game isn't on battling but on catching, and it really does reinforce the gotta catch 'em all tagline.
Yeah, I mean the whole point is like you gotta catch a shitload of them to build up the research, and then you literally need all of them to like get the like real ending. So
yeah, it feels like the most complete Pokemon game we've had in a really long time, and it's so good that even Donkey, video game Donkey, who shits on Pokemon every chance he gets, he's like, yeah, this is a pretty good game. He considers it Pokemon's second game, because they had the originals and then they have this one. But yeah, dude, and then you have all of the Hisuian forms, because like you can't make new Pokemon, but you can make ancient forms. And this game reminded me why I love Cyndaquil so much, because Hisuian Typhlosion, dude, it's so cool. I love Typhlosion, and they threw your boy back in it, which was such a wild. It's so wild to think that you're playing with a Rowlet in the Sinnoh region. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then you got Hisuian Decidueye. You end up catching all 3 starters by the end of the game. You end up finding the Sinnoh starters in the wild, because like that makes sense. How else does that Professor Birch or Rowan? Sorry, how else does he get those Pokemon in time? For Diamond and Pearl. Yeah, there are feral Pokemon. There are alpha Pokemon. Is that what they call them? Yeah. And this game has, like, story-wise, it feels very much like Mystery Dungeon, where you're a newcomer that's thrust. It's basically an isekai where you get thrown into a strange world and then you befriend all of the townsfolk, and you assimilate into their society. And I'm gonna go on record as saying that this Pokemon game has the best final villain fight of any game. Technically, it's the post-game stuff, like after you finish the main story, but when you fight, spoiler alert, Volo, who is Cynthia's ancestor, he not only uses her team, but he is an actual villain who wants to get to Arceus, and he's teamed up with Giratina to do so. So you have to fight his six Pokemon team. Then you have to fight Arceus. And then if you can even get through that without your team totally dying, then as Giratina is falling back for the first time and fainted, its eyes glow red, the music changes, and then it turns into its origin form. So it's basically fighting an 8 Pokemon team.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are legendaries. And it's so rewarding when you finally beat him, only to realize that Arceus still won't let you upstairs because you haven't caught every Pokemon.
Did you ever end up doing that?
No, I still have to do that.
Damn.
Yeah,
that Arceus fight was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, I think I watched you play it for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, but honestly, I think, nostalgia notwithstanding, main series games notwithstanding, this might be my favorite Pokemon game of all time. Like, from an objective point of view, I think it just does so much right. And with, Heart Gold and Soul Silver and, like, Sun and Moon, like, they have their technical limitations and, you can only play them on, like, handheld systems. But this game, Pokemon Legends, it's really fucking good. And I think it might be my favorite game of 2022.